Hey, this is Lessons in Critical Thinking number 49. Can you believe we're almost at 50? Number 49 I dedicated to people on Vancouver Island who live close to the 49th or spend part of their life there or have, including Dr. Swami, which we will have ongoing dialogue, me and you, with other individuals very soon. And you know, when I left that small town, planning it about a year or two in advance before leaving, is I did it for multiple reasons. And I've told many people that there's many reasons and they don't ask me. And when they hear this, they still don't ask me. Nobody still asks me. And one of the reasons I got depressed when I arrived on Vancouver Island in 2002 is that people were the same there, and I was drained from the journey, and I couldn't keep going. You can't go more west than that, young man. and I needed to go through this to understand myself and take charge of my own metapsychology more. And I've achieved great successes every year that I was there, and successes that surpassed, I would say 99.6% of the people I meet. Let me read a little bit from a book here. It says, I knew something like this would happen. I mean, every parent knows it's what parenting is. You raise your child knowing they're going to leave and hoping you've done right by them before they go. And if a child tells you you have to ask them to define and give examples. Otherwise, they know their parent hasn't achieved maturity and they need their feelings managed for them. But usually, if the parents have done right by them, the children will have the skill set and the memories to be able to answer many examples of that. Many examples of that. Because by the time they leave home, there's many years, hopefully, of these types of lessons. This is the book. Again, more of a Marvel fan, but DC surprises me sometimes with writers and good stories. You can't handle the truth. Try me. No, it doesn't work like that. I deserve, again, wrong premise. If deserve had anything to do with anything, parents wouldn't lose their children and genocide wouldn't happen. You want to know the thing about the truth, Montoya? Most people who claim they want it actually don't. It's like booze or sugar. Too much makes you sick, and most don't have the stomach for it, even in small doses. People want to be told they were right all along, that the world works the way they imagine it should. They do not want to be told they're wrong. Truth is so potent that, given the choice, most people would prefer to ignore it in favor of a lie more to their liking. I've been a reporter for a while. I know a little about truth. I know you have to deliver big truths in small pieces. Not because the liars will try to stop you, but because all those people who said they wanted it actually didn't. And they will absolutely kill the messenger, and not just figuratively. I could have been a journalist. I could have been a police officer. I could have been a teacher. I could have been a psychiatrist. But not in my lifetime, because to stay true to me, who I am now. For example, if I was a police officer, I'd want to arrest people that break the law, which would make me want to arrest half of the people in the precinct or department that I work in. If I was a journalist, I would want to expose, especially the investigative journalism part, which I would focus on. I would want to expose people who do wrong. For example, that politicians today in Canada, like Trudeau, and I'm not just blaming one person because, anybody else would have done it. It's just a sign of the times, right? But the thing is there's so many villains now that are worse than Hitler. And you might say, oh my God, how dare it? Well, again, let me explain. Adding drugs to a society where, like a neighbor of mine here, is off probably the heavy drugs, and now all he does is cannabis, but with brain damage from the heavy drugs. And he believes that he's, recovered and that he's well and his brain functions well when it doesn't. Now again, imagine his descendants, and imagine, the impact this will have to life on this planet, because I'm not sure you can say the same thing about Hitler in relation to life on this planet in the way of devolving species that has opposable thumbs and weapons of mass destruction, okay, and that are way too numerous in numbers. So the villains of today, written by anybody that would be there in the future and smart enough to objectively define them, are more numerous and worse than Hitler. So people haven't asked me all the reasons. Well, I'll tell you some of the reasons I left Ladysmith. Is I wanted to continue to grow as a person, to self-actualize. And it was impossible there. It was impossible to be taken seriously in roles that were worthy of me. So I mentioned some examples previously, being a librarian, being a journalist, being a police officer, being even a counselor or politician in any way. If I was a journalist, I think I'd be discouraged to be the kind of journalist I want, even during the program, even though I've gotten a letter of being a good journalist reference already. So that the elite kind of make it impossible for people that care enough to do a good job to even enter a profession now is again a sign of you have failed, and you failed in these tipping points before I was born. So why did I leave Ladysmith? Well, let's say I take my doctor to court, okay, and I'm planning to. And in my closure, and again, I don't mind giving my strategies openly online. In my closure, I would say, well, what if you were right? What if you were right to be the one to manage my life? Because I would define that that's the way the structure works, right? That incompetent doctors, often who don't want to pay attention enough, or get you to verify or document or further describe what you mean, so that they can have a clear view of who you are and what your choices are and what's important to you and your values. Well, they do act like they believe they are better managers of your lives than you are. And of course, these doctors will also end up having the stress in their elitism and ego power trips to also take drugs. And then it never ends. It's all speeding up now that, I've been not just wanting to leave Ladysmith or BC, but Canada. And the fact that by the time I get to court against this doctor or Island Health or VHA, because there's multiple incidents with other professionals, is by that time it'll be clear that what I've been documenting for years and writing about in the documents, like Dear British Columbia residents, I can verify that over 1,000 people were confirmed to receive this, okay, and nobody responded or commented on it. So again, I can tell you, you do not want the truth. But the truth is very simple. I am exactly who I say I am, and I want, if I'm alive, to keep growing. I value intelligence. I value self-actualization, developing my potential. And with the knowledge that this has earned me, I've decided that I deserve to kind of be in a culture that is not as devolved and insistent on staying that way and staying on that course as Canada is. And again, it's not that there's patriotism or anti-patriotism. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with life management. So if the doctor, at the end, I would say, it looks like the doctor believes they could manage my life better than I do. And probably they thought I should have stayed. It was weird that I left the town and that I closed my driving school. There's something, I supported him. He was appreciating community. Must be something wrong with him. And what's wrong with me is that I'm living among them who don't want to know why I'm making the decisions. And that is wrong with them. But they can't see it, right? They need to believe the lie of their own egos and elitism and the labels that they can use against me or not, because that doctor has written me references. Martin can do any kind of job he wants. And then suddenly, he makes me lose my driver's license. And again, I would be tested against him or any other, even ICBC professionals that get paid. And I would, in a test that is multi-level, I would, let's say with DriveAble, I would do as well as them. And then you could even do a test that's advanced, and I would do as well as them. So again, it's not about results, it's about going against the norm. And for me to have long vlogs, and so many of them approaching 50 in this series of critical thinking, is that you don't have the schemas. It takes time to explain things about the reality when you are, in such a widely intricate, created lie since before I was born, that I have to give it to you in small doses. I have to help create the schemas. And it would be easier if somebody really, really had the courage and passion to want to reconnect with reality. But otherwise, sometimes I do it a little bit more brutally. And it's not hard to prove reality. It's not hard. It's there all the time with you guys. So, any interaction really gives me another opportunity to prove in this interaction, how your mind is working, what your motivations really were, what your priorities are, if you were able to pay attention or not. If I tell you I have the evidence to say this, so please do not discard it in your judgment. And when the judgment obviously reflects that they have, ignored this and also not wanted the data, the evidence, the documentation that I had available, even with me at the time, then again, it's human trafficking, it's slavery, it's human violations of human rights at a very, very high level. And again, this is what Ladysmith wanted to be. They didn't want me to help them evolve, and they didn't want to see me or know of me evolving more. So most of them, if not all, did not stay in touch with me and did not, and some of them might have wanted, but peer pressure, at every level, age group, all got together. But also there's a self-involvement, self-serving, unable to reference the outside world. And also unable to remember things accurately, because sometimes they're upset I left, or they're upset that I grew and they didn't, and then they kind of have feelings that they're angry at me, but there's nothing that they can remember to be angry about it, because all I did was manage my life, which was so different than theirs. And it just makes them very, very uncomfortable, because in a way interacting with me means they have to reflect on these feelings in a deeper way, which is something they're not experienced to do. And even if they were, most people saying they want to really don't want to.